Hello, and welcome to A Place to Call Home. It's our weekly show where we talk about everything. This is a very special show. It's my pleasure to have as my guest State Representative Terry Landry from District 96. He is my state representative, and I have to do the disclaimer because this is political season and we want Mr. Landry, your opponent, to know that he is invited to appear on this show as well anytime he contacts me. And good to have you here, sir.
Well, it's good to be here, Portia. As always, it's nice to be in the studios with AOC, and I call AOC the People Station. It's the voice of the people. It's free radio. It's television, and it has allowed people to be informed about the issues that are near and dear in our local community. And it's always a pleasure to be with you.
Well, I said it at the onset. It's another political season, and you again are a candidate, District 96. And what term is this for you?
This will be my second term. I was honored and privileged to serve the people of House District 96. And first, let me just say I want to thank the people of House District 96 for the trust that they placed in me and allowing me to be their state rep for the past 4 years. This is a newly created district that was moved out of New Orleans after the census and the shift in population out of New Orleans. This district was gerrymandered from Lafayette, 12th Street, moving eastward into Breaux Bridge, Cypress Island areas, St. Martinville, and into New Iberia and portions of Broussard. So as you could tell, if you know the geographic here, it's a very, very diverse district.
What areas does your district encompass?
It encompasses 12th Street, it encompasses 12th Street back to the Bayou Vermilion in Lafayette Parish. Goes into Breaux Bridge, portions of Breaux Bridge. It goes into Parks, portions of Parks. St. Martinville and New Iberia, as far as Bayard Street near Senior High in New Iberia.
Okay, so are you looking forward to uh, another term, sir?
I am truly looking forward to another term, and I got to be honest. Like most candidates, you think that you've done a good enough job, and you hope that you don't have any opposition. But this is a left-hand compliment for me because it has put me out there again with the people. Not that I left, but it put me out where people can identify what I was doing, putting signs out, physically putting signs out. And I got to tell you, it's very humbling and gratifying when people stop and blow and tell you and compliment the job that you've done. So, I mean, and this is our democracy. Our democracy is made of checks and balances. And surely, if a person does a good job and maybe he doesn't deserve any challenges, but this will keep you humble and keep you in contact with the people, and then you know what the people of your district need.
Well, one thing I'd say is, first of all, competition is good.
Exactly.
Okay, in
exactly.
any race,
That's exactly
I'd
right.
say that, and I know that in your first term, that there were some things that you were able to accomplish. I want to go over a few of those.
Well, we believe that again our district is diverse. I went to Baton Rouge with the intent of serving people, Portia, and the theme of my campaign 4 years ago was putting our children and our senior citizens first, and everything in the middle is very important. And as you very know, there are a lot of things in our community, especially in our minority community in the inner cities, that our people are impacted. Getting to Baton Rouge was a task within itself. Once we got there and realized there are a lot of other issues that are very important to our community, especially the minority community. When I look at the mass incarceration that permeates our community, we incarcerate at a higher rate than anywhere else in the world. We incarcerate more African Americans than anywhere else in the world. When I look at the failure on this $1 trillion that we spent on the war on drugs, and we still have drug problems, it made me know that I had to be a diverse legislator. I had to be up not only on those issues dealing with children and senior citizens, but I had to be a voice for the people who do not have a voice. I had to be a voice for the families who have children that are incarcerated. They have to travel 4 hours to see their children. I have to be a voice when the Bobby Jindal administration tried to privatize our public schools on the back of public school teachers. I had to be a voice when we were holding teachers accountable for things that they had no control over. So it was a fast start. It was no learning curve. You had to get into it and make decisions that impacted your community. I think I've done that. I think I've done it with some pride and some integrity. Am I 100% right all the time? No, I'm not. We all make mistakes, but if I make a mistake, it's not because I intentionally and purposely trying to deceive the people for a special interest. I make it because I made it with my head and not my heart. So Baton Rouge is a fast-paced city. The legislature is fast-paced, and not many people take you and hold you by the hand and tell you how things are done.
That's right. I know you had to go in and you had to kind of find your way, find your seat, but I think that you've done well. And I do want to say that I want to talk about this a little. I heard the report where most of the legislators, including yourself from our area, got an F from the group Lobby. And as a constituent of yours, I was kind of glad you got an F from Lobby. I thought that was one of the better grades best grades you could have got. Really, because I want a legislator that does not represent Lobby. I want a legislator that represents me.
Yeah. Well, let me tell you about Lobby. Lobby is a Louisiana Association of Industry and Businesses, represents big businesses, Exxon, the major chemical plants. They represent those people who do not want to accept Medicaid expansion. They accept the people that want to privatize our schools. They represent the people that don't want teachers to have an association or a union. They're anti everything that working people are for. They're not for a livable wage. They're not equal pay for women. And all those are issues that I fought diligently and will continue to fight for. The fact of the matter is that Lobby gave me an F is a badge of honor for me. It makes me, for my personal edification, know that I'm doing what the people that sent me to. So, the rhetoric and the propaganda that I got an F from Lobby is just that. It's rhetoric and propaganda. It's uninformed, and it's blatant ignorance. Because if you know what Lobby represents, you know that an F for me, it means that I'm doing my job representing my community.
Now, Mr. Landry, there was some legislation that I questioned that you authored, and I'm going to always ask the question if I don't understand it. And until you explained it to me, I didn't understand what the heck you were trying to do. And that was the legislation about these car spokes or these wheels and stuff. And I know that you being a former state policeman, you had some concern about that. And when I first heard about it and that you authored that piece of legislation, it failed. But when I said, what is he doing and why?
Well, my intentions were from a safety perspective, and I guess it was hard for me to get the public safety perspective off of my agenda, I guess. And the bill passed the House, but it failed in the Senate. My intent was, number one, the public safety aspect. But we also talked about this mass incarceration, and we also here talk about profiling. And our young people who are wearing or using these wheels, sometimes the wheel looks more expensive than the car. And there is a perception out there that the people that are using or have these wheels are maybe doing some illegal stuff. Then the police have a probable cause to stop them. In hindsight, it really shouldn't have been a bill that I carried. It should have been a bill that the public safety state police sponsored. But it's done. It failed. The people have their wheels. They like them. I still think it's a safety issue, and we'll see what happens in the future. But I'm done with that piece of legislation, and it was intended for public safety purely.
What can we look forward to this time around? What is your biggest concern? I know you have a lot of things in your head, on your mind. What is your biggest concern?
My biggest concern is that we do some major reform in our sentencing guidelines. I've been working with a conservative group called the Pew Institute and the Pelican Institute in order to cut down on some of these sentencing that we have in Louisiana, in particular those nonviolent, non-sexual crimes. I think we've identified over 5,500 people that are in jail that have not committed a violent crime or a sexual crime, that with the right sentence and the right legislation that we can release those people back to their families and become productive citizens. I'm also talking to some people about getting those people who have had second offense felonies and have been out of jail for 5 years back into the community, working, paying taxes, that they get their voting rights back so that they become a whole individual. You have people that have made some mistakes, that are out here paying taxes, buying homes, working every day, and they can't vote. There's something wrong with that. So that's some of the legislation. We have another $1 billion deficit that we're going to be facing
Oh my.
this coming session. And mine is to ensure that it's not on the back of working people, it's not on the back of working poor. And nobody's talking about the working poor, Portia. There are 200,000 people in this state that work every day, work tirelessly and feverishly to provide for their family, but they can't afford health care. Those are the working people. Those are the people that we have to focus our attention on and ensure that they can get affordable health care. We give away $7 billion to tax credits and tax breaks to industry in this state. Some of those tax credits have been on the books years, over 30 years, and we have no measurement about the impact that they have in our community and what kind of economic impact. We have to go back and evaluate those, get rid of those that are not providing an economic stimulus to our community, those that are not providing jobs, and then we have to roll back those taxes and make sure that our state budget is not based on oil solely, and that it's a mixture of things that we can, diverse mixture of things that we can rely on tax basis.
Now, I want to ask you about a couple of things. First, I want to ask you about this. One of your fellow legislators initiated this bill that passed concerning medical marijuana. Is that good for our state? Is that going to be a good thing? I mean,
Well,
I've heard.
you have to be in, not to cut you off, but you have to be in testimony or committee, and you can go back and review the tapes. Just go to LouisianaLegislative.gov and look in the archives. When families come to you who have children who have epilepsy and having seizures, and they can't do anything for them, and medically, scientifically, they've said that this helped with the seizures. When you hear families that are relocating to Colorado and states that have legalized medical marijuana, when you hear of the people that are suffering from cancer and help so that they can have a dignified life, quality of life during this period, yes, it makes sense. It makes all the sense in the world. This medical marijuana has been legalized in this state since 1990s. This legislature just never gave the vehicle and the procedures on how to disperse it. And I don't think medical marijuana is going to be a passage to other drugs. Quite the contrary. Statistics have shown that heroin is the drug that is making a comeback in our country, and that's because of prescription drugs that kids can get out of their mother's
medicine cabinet.
Yes, the segue to hard drugs, or heroin, are going to be those prescription drugs. So I think that there's a lot of misinformation about medical marijuana. I'm glad Senator Mills passed that piece of legislation. It was named after Sheriff Mike Newsom's daughter who died of cancer, and one of the last things she asked her dad was, as a sheriff and a sheriff association, to support it. Senator Mills did some great work, and I was proud to stand with him in support in the House for the medical marijuana.
There's a national discussion going on right now about all the gun violence that is going on in this country. And I know that you have been a former state policeman, and I want to know your thoughts, especially here for our area. You know, we've got some of the highest gun violence around. How do we curb this thing? How do we get a grip on it?
Well, Portia, is a very, very difficult task, not an undoable task, but it's going to take a collaborative effort. It's going to take people to put their egos aside. It's going to take the churches. It's going to take the civic organizations. It's going to take families. It's going to take a lot of effort for us to come together because people are making money off of guns. All the guns that you see on the street, someone is making money off of it. And it's just like the drugs. We talk about how the drugs were put into our community to hurt us. All these drugs that you see, or guns that you see on the streets, someone is making money. Gun manufacturers, the NRA, those type people, they try to pit your right to bear arms versus your right to carry. It's two different things, and the Constitution provides for a well-regulated militia, i.e., a National Guard, and that type of stuff. I'm a Vietnam veteran, Portia. I spent 30 years protecting people's rights. I own guns. I have guns, but guns don't belong in every nook and cranny in our community. And when you promote the fact that more people who have guns is going to stop violence, I think it works the opposite. This is a national debate, as you very well know. But the ironic thing about it is that in this community, in Lafayette, in the area that I live in, within probably a 2-3 mile, there's 4 unsolved murders. Where's the outcry for those murders? They're black on black crimes. They're people that kill people in the theater, and it was a national initiative.
Yeah.
One of the 4 unsolved murders is right next door. I mean, in the next neighborhood for me. I mean, we have to have a real discussion, and we have to stop posturing, and we have to stop worrying about who's going to get the credit, and we have to have a real discussions about guns and violence within our own community. And if we expect someone else to come and solve our problems, it's not going to happen. But I believe that the church have a role. I believe the civic organization have a role. I even believe the media has a role. I have a role not to glamorize that. Sometimes in our life, we got the wrong people picked for heroes.
All right.
We got the wrong people picked for heroes. We have, in many instances, we got zeros
For
idolized
heroes.
for heroes, and there's something wrong with that because we have a lot of heroes and we have a lot of sheroes. And when I say sheroes, I'm talking about women. I'm talking about women of colors who have stood their grounds in their families and raised their families in spite of the difficulties that they have. And those are the people that we have to listen to, and those are the people that we have to have these discussions with. I'm tired of going to candlelight vigils. That doesn't solve anything. We have to come together, elected officials, ministers, civic groups, social groups. Let's stop the violence in our community, and that's the only way we're going to solve it.
Now, we've got a upcoming election. Early voting starts this week, and I'm sitting here looking at a sample ballot. There are 4 proposed amendments, constitutional amendments on this ballot, and I'm wondering about them. I got a couple of calls, and they said, Portia, speak to your legislator and ask him what we should do. Ask him how we should vote. Typically, when a person goes into the voting booth and sees all this language, they typically hit the no button. But sometimes hitting yes could be a good thing. So I want to know, we briefly went over them, and we don't have a lot of time, but briefly, we're talking about an amendment to rename the rainy day fund or the budget stabilization fund.
The common name known to it is the rainy day fund. It's in legislative. It's called the budget stabilization fund. This is the rainy day fund that we get money from all mentors that direct it to this fund. So when the state is in financial woes, that we can use this money to plug some of the gaps. All this amendment is going to do is change the name of it to the Budget Stabilization Fund and Transportation Trust Fund.
Good or bad?
Good amendment. And the reason for that, we're $12 billion behind in preservations in our roads and bridges in this state. And we have to find sources and ways to fund it, hopefully without raising taxes. This is a step in the right direction. When that trigger reaches $500 million, I think it is, rather than going into general fund monies, it's going to go into the Transportation Trust Fund. So only thing that's happening here is a name and ensuring that it goes in the Transportation Trust Fund.
All
Good
right.
amendment.
Second amendment, an amendment to authorize the investment of funds for a state infrastructure bank to be used solely for transportation projects. Good or bad?
Good amendment, very good amendment. It's a small step, but it's a step in the right direction. This is what progressive states are doing to handle their financial woes. What it does, if a city or municipality or a parish has a good revenue stream, and they have a road that they want to build for economic development or repair, rather than going to the state transportation department and get on a list that might take 10 to 15 years, they can go to this infrastructure bank, borrow the money, bond the project out, get it done, pay the bank back, which is going to be run by the treasurer and certain people in government, and then the money, the interest that they pay back will go into this bank to be used for infrastructure. One state started off with $30 million. It's up to $1 billion in the transportation trust fund, designed solely for the infrastructure of that state.
Good
So
amendment.
good amendment.
All right, third amendment. Do you support an amendment to allow any legislation regarding the dedication of revenue, rebates, taxes to be considered during a fiscal legislative session?
Well, I know you've heard that we have fiscal sessions and non-fiscal session. During non-fiscal session, the, the, the sky could be falling. We cannot pass any legislation to address the budgetary issues as like raise fees or taxes. So it handcuffed the legislature. So this provision will allow us to address those issues when we have a budget crisis. I think it's a good amendment.
All right, and the final amendment is about an ad valorem property tax exemption for public lands and public properties.
Well, this is another good amendment. We have a state that owns property in Louisiana. They're storing, I think, natural gas or oil in it. If it was a private entity, we would be collecting $400,000 in taxes on it. It's owned by a municipality out in Tennessee. So I think it's a good amendment. Why would we want to let another state have property in Louisiana, store their goods, and not make them pay taxes? I think it's a good amendment. I think all the four amendments
All
are good.
four amendments.
Yes,
So
ma'am.
we're saying yes to all four amendments. I certainly want to thank you for coming on. I hope that we can get some great elected officials in our legislature this time, especially those who care about the people. You know, I am concerned about raising the minimum wage in this state. Will it ever happen? You know, other states have done it. Will it ever happen for us? An equal wage for women. Of course, I'm concerned about that. I work 3 jobs. Please keep doing what you're doing, and thank you, sir, for your service. And I know you want to urge people to get out and vote.
Yes, I do. And one of the most fundamental rights that we have as citizens of this state is, in this country, is to get out and vote. There are people that died, that people that were not allowed to be men and women that sacrificed all that they were for us to have the opportunity to vote. The next election is very critical to us, very critical to the future of our society and our state, very critical to our children. I urge you, I plead with you, I beseech you to get out and vote. If you can't get out and vote on October 24th, if you're afraid that you're not going to be out here, early vote. You've got from Saturday to next week to get out and vote. Please, just exercise your right. It doesn't cost you anything. If you have problems voting, understanding the ballot, ask a family member. Do not compromise your vote and let someone else vote for you.
It's a long ballot and some very important offices on the ballot this time, especially Louisiana is going to elect a governor. Its next
Absolutely.
governor, and that's a very, very important issue. You know, we know that people turn out in higher numbers if there's a presidential election going on, but during this governor's election this time around, we need to show up.
We need to show up in record numbers. You know, the experts, when they poll, they don't even poll our community because they use trends to determine how we're going to vote. I think we need to buck the trend. I think we need to turn out in record numbers. It would gratify me and all the people that went before us if we can have a 70 to 80% turnout. People in Africa, South Africa, all over the country who never had the right to vote, stand in lines for days for the right to vote. And here it is, we have every opportunity online, early voting. You need a ride, you can get somebody to bring you the poll, and we don't show up. Barbecuing ain't gonna get it.
Right.
It ain't gonna get it.
Right. So, Mr. Landry, our time has come to an end, and we certainly want to thank you again for coming on the show today, for being with us today, for being our guest. Again, we extend the same outlet to your competitor. I do want to encourage people to read the ballot. If you can get your hand on a sample ballot, please read the ballot. Please study the people that's on the ballot and what you are voting for, who you're voting for, what they stand for, and know what is going on. And please get out and vote. Get out and vote. Get out and vote. That's going to wrap it up for us. I'm Portia Evans, and this has been my guest, Mr. Terry Landry. And good luck to you, sir. Thank you.
Thank you, Portia.
For your
Thank the listening
service.
audience. The
All
pleasure
right.
is mine.
All right, and we'll be back again next time with something else. In the meantime, you be blessed, and bye-bye.
A place called home.
Walter named that.
Yeah, those are good amendments. Doesn't cost anybody anything, but yeah, and I think it's the city of Memphis owned property in here, and they storing oil. And if it was a private company, or you or I, you're
We'd have to
able-
pay taxes.
and it equates to about $400,000 a year. I mean, those are the type things that we give away. $7 billion.
All right. We
I'm
know
going
John
straight
Bell
Democrat.
Edwards.
I'm going
Me
straight
too.
Democrat. I'm going straight Democrat.
Okay, and tell everybody
I'm
that.
going straight Democrat. That's
We got Tyson,
yeah. I'm going straight Democrat. I don't
That's
care whether
right.
they got a chance or not. I'm going straight
Maloney.
Democrat.
I'm
Yeah.
going Democrat too.
Yeah.
Except when we ain't got a choice.